Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. I'm going to try to get through this episode. As you all may or may not know, I've been dealing with laryngitis for the last week, so please bear with me. I'm not going to be talking very loud today, but you may hear an awkward squeak in my voice as it's trying to come back. I hope everybody had a great week as we venture into this new episode. If you are new to this program, this is the Erudition Network Interactive Black History and Knowledge Session. I am your horse. I am your host, Eddie Phillips. And what we do on this program is we try to discuss history with a emphasis on Black history, and also general knowledge, things that you may not have learned in school, as we approach and try to give you a different perspective and fact-based understanding of history and times. I hope that Sean Anthony, good to see you. Good to see you. I know I sound like a like a Smurf that's being choked out, but I'm okay. My voice has come back. I just can't really elevate it, so I'm going to try to keep it at a decent octave through the rest of this session. And it may be a little hoarse, but I'm okay. Tonight, hopefully we'll get some folks in here tonight. I'm going to give it a couple of moments as we get people who start to realize that we're on and get notifications. Sometimes those notifications come a few minutes late. And so I'm going to give a little bit of time, opportune time, for folks to catch up that way. What we try to do at the beginning of every session now is open up and allow you to ask questions. So, excuse me, if you are in the audience and you have a question, history-based or whatever, you have that opportunity at the beginning of the episode to ask those questions or to type your questions into chat, and we will attempt to give you a fact-based reply to whatever it is that you ask. Sorry, I was getting a. All right. So, if you have anything that you like, this is the time to ask those questions and to put them out there in front of the audience, whatever it may be. We also seem to be having a little bit of a signal issue. I'll have someone look for it in the background, but all right. We got about two people in here. Shout out to I see you. Who's that other person hide in the background, creeping, just watching and listening? No one wants to respond. That's all good. That's fine. You don't have to. Oh man, this is gonna be a fun episode. I almost did not do this episode today. I was like, I'll wait because you're always here. Okay, Teddy, you got too much of your brother in you. Um, let's discuss some things since no one's willing to ask questions or delve too much into. I'll kick it. Basically, I'll kick it off. I'll kick off whatever we're going to talk about today. Can I ask you all a question? Do you know the difference between a sidereal day and a solar day? I'll say it again, and maybe I'll type it in here. A sidereal day and a solar day. Do you know the difference? Have you ever heard of a sidereal day? Eric, good to see you. I know, Eric, you should have heard of a sidereal day before. What is a sidereal day? I'm pretty sure you know what a solar day is. That's my first question to you all out there. Let me type that in there. Don Anthony, you said, I think a solar day is when the world spins around the sun and hits every part of the world, possibly. Okay. Eric said he has no idea. Oh, Eric, you was my go-to on this. You was my go-to. But I get it. It's not something that is readily in anybody's. Let me spell it out to you guys in chat. Then maybe um you will you will remember. Know why this thing was typing. There it is. A sidereal day. And before I go into anything else tonight, that is the reason I'm asking this for a reason. Sean Anthony, you are correct. A solar day is how we tell time. As the sun makes its way across or for its full rotation, um, that's what it is. The Earth rotates 360 degrees in 24 hours, and that gives us what is called a solar day. But a sidereal day is different because even though the Earth rotates at 360 degrees, it does it in a 23-hour, 56 minutes, and 4 seconds. There is a difference. A sidereal day is not measured by the sun. A sidereal day is measured by the stars, right? For a solar day, we can reference it with a sundial and we can see it, right? But a sidereal is measured with respect to the background stars while solar time is still going on. The reason that I asked this question is because we in this world base our time so much on a solar day. We base our time on what the sun is doing. Time to us is in reference to the sun. But the ancient people, if you go back and you look even at the kingdom of Kush, the Africans, they didn't just look at a solar day, because a solar day would not tell you everything. They spent time looking to see what was going on as stars and things in the sky. What were their purpose? The constellations and things that we see. And too often, I think we have lost the reason why they do that. They did that. If you go and look at the pyramids, if you go look at certain structures that are still up in Africa, they are aligned with the stars. And one of the reasons that the ancients looked at the stars was because though a solar day could tell me what was passing day to day, a sidereal day could tell me what seasons, where I was, as far as astrologically, as far as stars in space. We have taken these ideas and we've made them into something that they're not. People have made them into religions, into hoodooism and astrology and all of these things. But the truth of the matter is the ancient people didn't do it to divinate per se, not in the way that we look at it. They did it to be able to tell what seasons it was going to be. They did it to be able to tell what the equinoxes was. Does anybody out there tonight, what is an equinox? Do you know what the equinoxes are? And I'm not talking about some divination, some divinity, any of that. I'm asking you this question because tonight I want to talk about how we misinterpret things in history to make them supernatural when in truth they are a part of the natural world that God has given us to understand how to live day to day. It's a concept that a lot of people don't like to focus on. It's a concept that a lot of people probably never really got or were told in school. It's a concept that, when misinterpreted, allows us to make stupid suggestions and to fall into stupid traps. So there is definitely a reason why you should know this and why you should open yourself up to understanding this. Give me a moment, please. Just bothering people. But that idea of a sidereal day. Okay, Teddy, I thought you were asleep, but I get it. The times that the earth is even neither away from the sun nor towards. As far as the equinoxes go, I get that. You're somewhere right, my son, and that's almost there. It's close. Anybody else? Can you tell me what is the point of understanding the equinoxes and what is an equinox? We deal with them every year. They happen all the time, all the time. And the reason why I want to talk about it is because people make them out to be more than what they are. There are significant things that happen during these periods, but there's still something that we should understand. I'm gonna give you guys about another 30 seconds, and then I'll go in with my hoarse voice and I'll explain it to you. Yes, I know you love space. Kid, kid of mine. All right. Teddy is right. He is right in the fact that the equinoxes deal with the tilt of the earth, right? He is right in that the earth has a tilt of 23.5, right? That's how we tilt. And depending on the time of the year, our rotation of the planets, we have different tilts, right? So between December, coming into December, you have what we call the winter solstice, right? That's when the earth is tilted away from the sun, right? This was important to ancients and the ancient people because that explained why things got colder. It gave them the understanding of when to plant crops. When were crops not going to be successful? What areas were going to be cold? They didn't get that from a solar day. They got that from understanding the Earth's placement in time and space. Ancient people who we typically tried to consider to be unintelligent understood this. They got it. I've talked to you guys in the past about solar interpolation and why it was such a big issue in Africa because the tilt of the planet, right? The tilt of the planet, the weeble wobble, it changed just oh so slightly. So that meant when they got out of the winter solstice, where the earth is tilted this way, right? As the sun is here and it's tilted away, that was cold. But when you get into the summer solstice, where the sun is closer, right? Because the earth is tilted differently, then what that means is it was hotter. Hot means harder to be able to plant crops too, harder to maintain animals dying, water drying up. All of these things were affected by how they looked, how they used the astronomical understanding that they had. Got me thinking of my previous job, perigee apogee. Perigee apogee is another important part of it as something rotates. And we're going to get into a little bit of that tonight before the end of the night and how mass pulls, right? The mass of this world, not the size, the mass. And my point tonight is how ancient people understood this concept that we give to Newton and Kepler. They understood this, and we know they understood it because they built relics. There are things that are left on this planet that shows they had an understanding of it and how it affected their lives. You all have the opportunity at the beginning of the program, Eric, to always ask a question. Any question that you want to ask. I opened up that door, but a lot of people were not on. And so you still have that opportunity. Sorry, guys. Anything you want to ask? Okay, when we talk about these equinoxes though too, we get to a certain thing that's called the vernal equinox. I'm sure you may have heard of this. I'm sure it's probably something that they touched on in science, but it's also known as the spring equinox, right? This happens around this time of the year, usually around March, and now we were just passing the vernal equinox. It's the first day of the spring, um, and it is the time where the Earth's axis is not tilted towards or away from the sun, the most equal time, right? So we're here right now, having just passed this year's vernal equinox. That means, so what does that mean? The sidereal sun, outer space, however you want to call it, effects as far as the universe goes, as opposed to our narrow view of the planet. What this means is the Earth is in a position right now where it's equaled out. It's neither tilting away nor towards. So that means that we will start having equal parts night, equal parts day. And then as things chip away, we'll start to see a deviation in that. That is so important to understand. Day and night means hunting time. Day and night means learning time. Day and night means planting time. Day and night affects the society. It affects the society. So when ancient people looked at the vernal equinox, they understood that there was an equal amount of time that they had during this time of the year. It's the reason why I'm going into this tonight, because there's a lot of foolery out here. There's a lot of foolery out here. And people are losing themselves and starting to worship things because they don't basically understand the science of it. Because you don't understand the science of a thing, a God-given, as I used to tell guys in training them, a universal truth, a God-given universal truth, such as gravity. Eric mentioned earlier apogee and perigee, right? Apogee meaning that something travels around, like a satellite, around the Earth, right? The further away, right? As we talk about our apogee, but it's still held by the mass, the gravity of this planet, so it can't escape. This is why our satellites stay in orbit, and then it comes back around. And the closer it gets, that is its perigee. But the funny part about it is, in the universal understanding of God's given truth, is that as it swings back around in perigee, it's increasing in speed so that it can loop around the mass of this planet, escape a little bit into its apogee, and come right back. And we understand this as orbital, right? The orbital mechanics of how things work. Gravity affects everything. Ancient folks studied this too. You shoot an arrow from a hill, it's only going to go a certain distance before it starts to fall. The more power you put behind whatever you shoot, the further it will travel, trying to escape gravity. When we say that ancient people were smarter than us, they were. They understood these things and we built upon them. Eric, what was your question here? Who unalived Christ? Man. man. Now, we can get into the deliberateness and say that Jewish leadership wanted him dead. We can get into all of that. But the truth of the matter is, all man anywhere on this planet was corrupted, was corrupt, from the Roman to the Jew to the Arab to the African, depending on where you would have been in the planet, wherever Jesus could have appeared other than in Israel, there would have still been people willing to kill him, as there are still people willing to kill innocent people today. I think we get lost in the blame, and that doesn't help any of us. Go ahead. Because it's illegal to say that pretty soon. Well, here's the thing. Facts are stubborn. The Bible tells you, gives you a complete breakdown of the life of Christ and how he came to crucifixion and why. Ultimately, the decision, if you are a Christian, the decision came down to Jesus. He decided. There was a decision to die. If you are a Christian and you believe in Christianity, that's how you have to see it. It's funny that you asked this question, Eric, because I get it. I get it. We tend to forget that even though we are facing a dilemma and an issue with Palestinians and the people of Israel, I won't say the people of Israel because they've pretty much said how they feel about this too. We forget that this is not new, right? When we look back at even World War II, post World War I, the anti-Jewish sentiment that was out here. How many of you remember Charles Coughlin? Does that name even strike to you? Anybody out there know who Charles Coughlin was? I'll even type it in here for you. Father Charles Coughlin. Does anybody know who this person was? This is an interactive session, so I'm giving you the opportunity to say whatever it is that you may know. Yes, I'll give you that time to go Google, because I'm sure some of you are trying to go Google, even if you're watching the replay of this. Charles Coughlin the Romans. The Romans didn't do it by themselves. They are the ones who performed the crucifixion, but they didn't do it by themselves. And the Bible shows you that. Charles Coughlin was a Catholic priest from Detroit. Charles Coughlin lived a long time. He didn't die until just before, I want to say, 1981. The beginning of the 80s, I remember, is when he died. Charles Coughlin is important because he had a whole nation of people post World War I following his anti-Jewish rhetoric. He had been a supporter and a friend of FDR up until the New Deal. And as anti, Semitism rose in Europe, as Hitler came to power, Charles Coughlin was actually mentioned in speeches by Hitler as a person of shared mentality. This was a Catholic priest who got on the radio and told millions of Americans that Jews were evil. I find us in a situation now where we're allowing ourselves to fall into these demagogic mentalities, and we're losing sight on what it's really about. Life. Life. People are dying. And as long as we follow the rhetoric and the foolery and the lies, we get caught up in an antagonistic mentality where we're fighting against each other with no understanding of how to actually help people. These battles went on during the Crusades. It wasn't just that the Crusaders went to the Holy Lands with the idea of embracing Jewish people or Muslim people. No, it was the way to say, this is our God, our French God, our English God, our Spanish God, our Catholic God. And when we get lost in that, we forget the people who were killed, who died during these foolery expeditions that we go on. And I'm seeing that today play out because people say you can't protest or say something against something that doesn't seem right. It's not about Palestinian or Israeli. It's about who's dying. Who's dying as a result of our foolery and lies and mistruths and money and bombs and all of that. There's a whole generation of children being wiped out. That's what it's about. Not who killed Jesus, not if the Jewish people are evil or if the Muslim people are evil. These are all historical lies and mistruths that have been pushed by corrupted men. And every time we fight that in history, like with Charles Coughlin, like with Adolf Hitler, we lose ourselves and people die, sometimes by the millions, unfortunately, in history, because our lack of attention. Eric, what else you got here? Is the Jewish returning to their homeland, bringing back the resurrection of Jesus, a Jewish belief, or is it also a Christian belief? So you have different beliefs in those systems, right? Let me explain something to you about Christianity as my belief as a Christian that is supported by Bible. Christ is going to return. That is what the Bible tells me, right? As a Christian. What you do, the things that you decide to do are only markers to that time happening. But I have never in my time of being alive and reading the Bible and understanding the walk with Christ, has it been said that you use those markers, those things that Christ told you to watch out for, to hurt others, to demonize others, to kill others. That was never said. Though he may have told you beware false prophets, teachers, preachers, earthquakes, all of these things, these are signs. But what we are seeing is people acting upon what they perceive to be a sign, whether it is or is not, and doing something evil by Christian, by Judaic, by Muslim standards against someone else because you feel that it's justified. But how do you expect to reap the benefits of the return of Christ if you're doing something evil that will not allow you to partake of that? The reason I'm asking these things is because I'm not religious. So trying to understand, because I've heard many of our elected officials, so they're making an argument, Eric. A lot of times these people who you see out here, and we're seeing this more and more, Pastor Ray's, I was watching them recently, they're not even reading that. People who are saying this don't read the Bible. They've never picked up a Bible. They've never read it for themselves. They've never tried to understand that word. They don't have a walk with Christ, but they're telling you. I'll give you an example. In the early 1900s, the Ku Klux Klan had a massive enlistment program. It is believed that 2 out of 5, I believe it's 2 out of 5 Americans were part of the Ku Klux Klan. And one of the things that the Klan said was, we are God's chosen people. In other words, Christ is coming back for us, and we have to prepare a place without the Jew, without the Catholic, without the Black, only us, the white pure. And this was a belief. This was a sincere belief. It is why, as you got into the 30s and the 40s, it was perfectly understandable how worldwide people started to accept these lies. The Catholic Church accepted these lies. When the Pope of that time died in 1935, the Pope that took over for him was already a friend of Mussolini and Hitler. He was already caught up in the rhetoric of hate before he ever took the position of Pope. That's why it is no surprise that we have evidence that there were Catholic priests who hid Nazis and got them out of Germany and out of Europe. People can tell you that they are Christian and that they believe in a Christian mentality. But you need to understand and you need to discern, and it's hard sometimes, but I tell you the best way to do it is to pick up that Bible and read it for yourself. Pray for understanding. Structure yourself with knowledge, with a touch of God to open up your understanding. Because if God is not in your intelligence, then you're going to find yourself lost. That has always been my belief. But these are good questions, Eric. You kind of took me off my subject tonight, but keep going. I have no problem in answering these questions for you because I do believe we need to talk about this stuff. I just spoke to a neighbor of mine earlier today, and I was telling him to go get my latest book. I won't say my new book. It's been out for a little bit now. And I was telling him to go get that book. And I was telling him because he was like, I don't know a lot of these things. And I was saying to him, we are more connected than we are disaffected than we are apart. And because it's been hidden from us for so long, and because we can't teach it, Or when we do teach it, folks don't listen. People who want to keep us separated, keep us warring against each other, they have a greater ability to do that simply because we don't know. But, as I was talking about Coughlin, because it amazes me how much freedom this man had when you go back and you look at those times. But he wasn't the only one. This is the reason why a lot of our Black ancestors during the early 1900s were being killed, murdered, raped. We don't even know how many people were killed. We don't know. The census of the time that came in, we don't really know how many Black people were here. Whole towns wiped out at the end of the 1800s and early 1900s. People killed and murdered. And a lot of it done under the guise of a Christian country, of people who professed the idea that they were followers of God or Christ. So it's on every side, Eric. It's not just one side. This is why you got to read it for yourself. Anybody else? It's a group of you out there. And before I go further into any other subject, anybody else got any questions? Again, I apologize. I call this a laryngitis episode because I have been recovering from laryngitis for the last 6 days, and I'm getting past it, but my voice is still a little weak. But I wanted to make sure I got on here tonight and interacted with you all and did this episode because I never like to go a week without us discussing something that's going on or something that's been itching in your craw that you want to have discussed, and questions that you may have about history or whatever that you want to have explained and given facts and things given to help you better understand it. So whatever you got, whatever is out there, got a question, drop it in the chat right now, and I promise you we will go into it. I'm trying to drink water for you all so it's not so scratchy. But what'd you say here, Eric? Okay, the massive student protest is very concerning and shedding light. So I have no problem. Look, the student protest is good or any protest is good when there is clear-cut understanding of what we're trying to accomplish. It's good when we don't open the door for agent provocateurs. I saw a video the other day where it looked like people were acting out a skit. He's not letting me in here. And I saw other people walking around and going another way. I was like, that don't make any sense. If they're not letting you in right here, why don't you go another way? But that's not the message that some people want to put out here. Right? They want to push an idea of people fighting each other. And in the midst of all of that rigmarole and you pushing each other and mad at each other, what is being accomplished? Are the young kids and the Palestinian kids, are they getting food? Are we stopping the bombings? Are we reaching world leaders? Or have we made this a college campus fight with no idea of what we're trying to accomplish? People showing up and making political stances and saying what side they're on. This ain't a prize fight. I care about the lives that are being lost on either side, and everybody should. When I saw a man on television a couple of months ago, me and my son were watching, and he said that little Palestinian kids were just collateral damage. He said this on a major network. They're just collateral damage. Would this same Jewish man had said that when Jewish people were trying to escape Europe after Kristallnacht? If you don't know what that is, that's when the Nazis first actively started to attack Jewish people, took their property, burned down their businesses, put them out of their houses. When he had said that, it's just collateral damage. We got to know our history. Man, I say that so much. It is a frustration in my life. Told a man today, an older man, we got to know our history. Because when we don't know it, when we ignore it, we fall into a trap. We allow people to tell us things that aren't factual. And we believe things that could get us hurt. Think about the things you were told as a young person about history. You remember those things you were told. You were told that George Washington couldn't chop down a cherry tree. You were told that Lincoln was an impeccably honest man. We were told all of these lies. And we were told it as young kids to program us to follow that mentality into adulthood and to never ask the who, what, when, where, and why, to clarify these things. We were told that Columbus found America. We were told this. We were told that Thomas Jefferson, with the Louisiana Purchase, opened up America. But we weren't told why. We weren't told that the Louisiana Purchase was because Napoleon needed money. And Napoleon decided that he was not going to fight a war over in the Americas because the Haitians had whooped them and pushed them out. And he was losing wars. We never were told why. We just accept these things because they tell us these beautiful lies. They give us a story, right? They told us Lewis and Clark went from one end of the country to the other end of the country and said that Sacagawea helped them. But we're not told how many other Native Americans allowed them to pass through their areas and help them, or they would have died. Those same Native Americans that we later turned our backs on as a country took land, massacred their people, wiped them out. History is fact-based. It's fact-based. And it's only up to us to decide to research and go find those facts. But when we don't do that, when we say to ourselves that that's not important, we fall into a trap. Sorry, I dropped my cup. we fall into a trap. And too often I'm on here on programs or other people's programs, and I'm telling people all the time, prioritize your history. I'm on here tonight getting over laryngitis. And I'm telling you the reason why I got up out of my bed tonight. I have to work tonight. Work every Thursday evening. But I prioritize this program. I prioritize it because I know the importance of knowing your history. There's not a thing that happens that my mind don't go, man, I wish people understood. I wish people remembered. But we don't. We don't. Sorry, y'all, we don't. And our ancestors died so that we could, but we don't. We don't prioritize it. We know so many of these people in these beautiful stories, but we don't know the truth. We don't know the truth. Was it the Boston Massacre? They shot a bunch of men, but nobody remembers that the reason why they shot Crispus Attucks was because the British soldier said, I saw a large Negro running at me, and I fired. That's not Eddie making that up. Go Google like y'all like to do, and go find it. And you'll find that that's exactly what he said. And that was acceptable. Because, yeah, this large escaped Negro shouldn't be running at anybody. Prioritize your history. All right, y'all. You got a little couple of minutes. Anybody got any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Eric, you've been asking a lot, and I'm appreciative of it. If you don't have any questions, it's okay. But can I interest you in going to get a beautiful book? Oh, you know what I didn't talk about tonight that I should have got into? I just saw it when I was going to show you all this clip of this book. Man, I should have showed this tonight. Let me see if I can cover this in the next 10 minutes. Next 10 minutes. We got about 10 minutes. I want to cover this. I came across something last week as I was sick and dealing with this. And I was like, man, you know, we really need to talk about this because this is crazy. Hold on, let me see if I can share it. And if you got my book, this right here you should have went, this is crazy, man. So what is this? So you're looking at a scale here. There was a study that's been done, and they found that there was a gap, right? And so the people put this out, said that there was a significant gap in man in the early days of Homo sapiens, man. Well, I found that funny, and I looked at that and I was like, well, that kind of makes sense. Because to me, this just proves that what the Bible and other ancient books have said. And you don't have to understand what they used here was something called the fast infinitesimal time coalescent, what they call FITCO, right? Which is a process of how they go in and pull out this information genetically, and well, not just genetically, but they use it with genetics in order to find this. So I'm sure a lot of people won't understand, and I don't have time to get into what FITCO is right now. But basically what they were trying to say with this chart was that there was a bottleneck, right? There's a bottleneck here in the early days of a severe bottleneck of evolution. Well, if you got my book, right, you know that I talked about the Denisovians and the Neanderthals and how non-African or out of Africa dispersal, people who had left Africa and went north, right, were interbreeding with these other, and they even said in this study, which I laughed, other human species. Well, I won't call it a human species as we see it, but it's another species. And we know it because it's in our DNA. There's evidence of Denisovans and Neanderthal in the Homo sapien DNA. Here's the thing. What they fail to think about, right, is that there were not a lot of Homo sapiens. If we were to go off of the idea of ancient books, including the Bible, it says that whether you look at the Bible, it says Adam and Eve. Well, that doesn't populate immediately. You don't have 100,000 people immediately, so you may have 1,280 individuals, right, that appear, that all share the same mitochondrial Eve or Y chromosome Adam genealogy, right? But they're populating. They're populating. That's not a bottleneck. What that is to me, it's an identifier that what you're doing in trying to connect these hominids that don't connect with us, these monkey creatures and things that you're trying to throw into human DNA, we're finding by science that they don't apply. They don't apply. Not genetically. And so you're starting to see that, yes, there were very few humans amongst these other creatures and animals and things that we're trying to add to them. And again, we're slowly removing these bigoted ideas, these revisionist ideas that historians put into place, because science is now showing us and proving to us what the ancient folks already knew. What they already knew. So you don't have to understand the infinitesimal time coalescent. You don't have to understand even genetics. You just need to really get it in your head that the science here, I mean, you don't need to understand it to the level that a geneticist does, but you should understand it to a point to say, wait a minute. They called it an extension risk because they thought, well, wait a minute, that meant that the Neanderthals and the Denisovans, they were dying off. Well, they're not us. And they were dying off. Get my book. Go out there, get that book, open up your aperture a little bit. And I'm telling you, you're going to learn some things. Go out and get that book. You can acquire it on Amazon. You can get it on Lulu Books. It's still out there on Lulu. You can go and get the ebook. And I'm telling you, you are going to learn something. I have gotten people telling me that they are using questions from the book in their class. I've had people who have said that they've read parts of it and they didn't know that. People who have gone out to go look at the sources and the references for it. The book actually sold a couple of copies last week that I wasn't aware of because I've been focused on doing this new book and pushing out the print version of this book. And I tell you all, it's close to 300 pages, right? It's over 200 some pages. And so trying to go you're going to get, this is not just a quiz book. You're going to get knowledge that you can learn and come onto the interactive, ask questions. We can go deeper into these subjects. I started with 101 on this book. The next book will have 102, and the third book will have 103. But each one of those are there to stir the pot, so to speak, and get you to start asking questions. Go on Amazon. Go get the Erudition Network's 101 Black History Question Challenge. Go challenge yourself. The ebook is $18. $18 for a book that should be priced. I was looking at another person's history book. They're charging you $40, $50. I tried to make this book reasonably priced so you can get something from it. Go get it. Go see that you have history before 1619. Go see what these ancient African cultures did. The things that the grounds that they broke. The ingenuity of those people. Go get it. All right. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you all for bearing with me with this laryngitis and slight hoarse voice today. Perfectly next week, this will be completely gone. It's already starting to go away. It was really, really bad yesterday. I was gurgling earlier today, but it's starting to get my voice back so that you all can make fun of my regular voice. Some people do. But I want to say thank you to all of you all who joined us tonight and came on, watched the program. Even if you didn't see anything in the background, I appreciate you were here. I appreciate that you were here. I see that there are people who are with us tonight. Please share the program and help us to grow the network. And go out and get that book and be on the lookout for new books and new things that are coming out. I'm actually working on 2 books at the same time. I know I shouldn't, but I have a reason for it to try to get these books out as soon as possible. One is a revision. I needed to get that revision done. And since I'm doing this, I said, let's just get both of them done. But we need to start getting more stuff out here and making people aware. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get out of here. Thank you, Eric, for all of your questions. I really do appreciate you, brother, for coming on and getting in the chat and always asking good questions, things that need to be asked, and I appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, you all be blessed, and God willing, we will see you again next week. Thank you.